The government of Canada just made a massive new announcement about changes to the LMIA system. In this video, we are going to talk about those changes. Before we get started, my name is Madhur Parashar. I'm a licensed Canadian immigration consultant. My contact information is here and in the description. If you need any help with your Canadian immigration, feel free to reach out. Now let's go through the changes that have been announced. Number one, Canadian employers can no longer file a low wage LMIA if the region where they're located has an unemployment rate greater than 6%. Number two, the maximum percentage of low wage LMIA workers that an employer can have is capped at 10%. And number three, the maximum work permit duration for a low wage LMIA work permit has been reduced from 2 years down to just 1 year. Now, before we dive into the details of the announcement, let's understand what is a low wage LMIA. Now, whenever an employer wants to hire a foreign worker, they file an LMIA, and the LMIA has to specify the hourly wage paid to that worker. Now, the hourly wage paid should be at least equal to or greater than the median hourly wage for that profession in that region. For example, if an employer is hiring an administrative assistant in Toronto, then the wage on the LMIA should be at least greater than or equal to the median wage of administrative assistants in Toronto. So let's say that median wage of admin assistants in Toronto is $22 per hour. The median wage of Ontario, the overall province, is $28 per hour. And the employer is mentioning $22 per hour on their LMIA. This is a low wage LMIA. If they were hiring a computer programmer for $40 per hour, which is above the provincial median wage, it would be called a high wage LMIA. So now that we understand what is a low wage LMIA, let's get into the details of the announcement. So bullet point number one, an employer cannot file a low wage LMIA if the unemployment rate in their region is above 6%. So what the government is saying is, if there are so many unemployed people in your area, then why are you filing an LMIA for a foreign worker? You should be hiring from the local population. Now, this is a reasonable request by the government. It's not a request, it's an order. But it's a very reasonable rule, because if a lot of Canadians are unemployed in that region, now 6% is pretty high rate of unemployment. If so many Canadian citizens are unemployed, then the government is forcing the employer not to file an LMIA by refusing the LMIA and saying that you must find local people to do that job. So I think this is this is a very good rule. The second is that the maximum number of employees who can be on a low wage LMIA work permit at an employer is 10%. So if an employer has 10 employees, then a maximum of one employee can be on a low wage work permit. If they have 100 employees, then a maximum of 10 can be on a low wage work permit. Now, this sounds like a very low or very strict cap, but let's remember that 10% was the cap before the pandemic began. During the pandemic and during the recovery period, there was a severe labor shortage in Canada, because of which the government allowed the cap to be lifted from 10% all the way to 30%. Then, when the labor market was not so tight and the unemployment started rising, then they brought the cap down from 30% to 20%, and now they're restoring it to 10%. So, what it might seem like a very strict cap, but it's actually going back to the way things were originally. By the way, the first rule and the second rule that I just described, exceptions have been made for employers who are in essential industries like healthcare, construction, food processing, agriculture, and so on. So this means that those employers can continue to file low wage LMIAs, but I can tell you that they will face a lot of refusals and a lot of tough questions and pushbacks if they do file LMIAs for those people. Bullet point number three, the work permit duration has been reduced from 2 years to just 1 year. Now, 1 year work permit is a very short duration. So why have they reduced it to 1 year? There are a few reasons for this. So the first reason is they want the employer to keep going back to the labor market and checking if any qualified Canadians are available. So if the employer wants to continue keeping the worker after 1 year, then they have to file a new LMIA, and the new LMIA involves job advertisement. So they are being forced to go back to the market again and again to see if any Canadians are available and hire them first. So that's one thing. The second thing is the government is trying to make life very difficult for the Canadian employers who want to hire low wage workers. So imagine, for if they want to renew after 1 year, they have to file the LMIA at least 3 months prior, and they have to advertise the job at least 1 month, for at least 1 month before that. So the employer every 8 months has to start the whole process again for advertising, paying LMIA fees, paying lawyers fees, and going through the entire application process. So by making it so difficult for employers, they're actually forcing employers to just give up and hire Canadians, which is the original purpose of these announcements. And the third is, they are basically trying to make sure that the low wage workers do not remain in Canada for very long. Look, 1 year is a very short period. You cannot get your PR in 1 year. You cannot. The longer a worker stays in Canada, the higher the chance becomes that they might remain in Canada. They might get married to Canadians, they might have babies and who are Canadian citizens, they might file asylum claims, they might go back to school, they might become eligible for permanent resident pathways and so on. So what they're trying to do is preventing people from putting down roots in the country by offering them very short work permits and then forcing them to go back. So this is a very cruel and in some way an unfair treatment of these workers. It's kind of like a use and throw approach where we just bring you in to do some dirty work for 1 year and then we send you back. But that is pretty much what these people are trying to do. Now, the 6% unemployment rate that we just cited, this covers a lot of employers. Why? Because if you look at ESDC's website where they publish the unemployment rate, then we will see that a lot of cities have unemployment rates higher than 6%. The most important, Toronto has a 6.6% unemployment rate. Calgary is above 6%. Abbotsford in BC, Oshawa, Kitchener, Waterloo, these places have unemployment rates above 6%. And most of the employers who file for low wage LMIs are located in these places. So a lot of employers and a lot of future employees are going to get hit by this very, very badly. Now, why is the government doing this? Well, the reasons are obvious. One is because the economy has changed, market conditions have changed, so they have to adopt the programs accordingly. But the more important is political. Elections are coming up. Canadians are angry about inflation, about unemployment, and so on. So the government wants to look like they're doing something and being tough about this. So these are easy wins for the government to show to the people that, look, we're doing something, so vote for us. The government is not done yet. In this announcement, they have clearly stated that the government is looking at more steps to tighten the LMIA system. Next, in the next 90 days, they're going to explore ways to tighten the high wage LMIA stream as well. They're trying to expand these announcements not just to certain places with high unemployment, but across the country. So more and more announcements on this topic will be coming out very soon. On this channel, we'll be releasing those announcements and analysis as soon as they are released. So make sure you stay subscribed to this channel. Once again, my name is Madhur Parashar. I'm an RCIC based in Vancouver. My contact information is here. Feel free to reach out if you have any immigration questions.